Hi. Today I want to talk about a topic that tends to come up quite regularly when I'm talking to my clients with high levels of social anxiety. It's speaking to new people with ease. Now, how often do you avoid speaking to new people because you're afraid you'll seem awkward or boring? You didn't know what to say? You assumed you'd quickly run out of topics? This kind of self-doubt, it can be paralyzing. We all fear this awkward silence when we're expected to make small talk with a stranger. Perhaps it's at a business dinner and you're sitting next to a new colleague. Maybe you're at a wedding and you meet a friend of a friend of a friend. How do you get past the initial introductions or even start the conversation? Then there's always the first date with someone. How can you turn it into something big, assuming you want to? There isn't a miracle cure when it comes to dealing with social anxiety and feeling nervous about talking with new people. Every conversation is unique, and they all have their own dynamic because we all have different personalities that come across differently in certain situations. It's almost as if we wear these different hats. If your communications follow the same pattern, then you aren't getting to know any of the people that you speak to. Now, there is no specific formula to follow, although there are some tips that might help you to become better at entering into a situation where you think you may meet some new people and you'd like to feel you can speak to them. Here are some of the ideas that I think are sometimes quite helpful. The first one is to listen. And I know this sounds really obvious, but think about this. We always talk about the importance of listening, but what does that even mean? Think about how you socialize with your family members or people you feel a level of comfort with. You pay attention to what they're saying, right? You're not overly concerned about formulating your response because you feel comfortable with them. Now, a conversation, it's a two-way street, and your response should build on what the person has said to you. If you don't listen, then how will you relate? How will you know what to ask? How will you build the connection further? You can't. So listen carefully to what the other person is saying. Also, it's important to avoid hot topics. Now, there are certain hot button topics to avoid. It's important not to necessarily broach issues such as politics, religion, or even economics. If you're in a potentially romantic situation, then it's probably important to stay away from discussing past relationships as well. Trust me, that's a game killer. Instead, hover around safe topics such as hobbies, interests, family, weather, your occupation, and aspirations. There may be a point at which you do discuss the hot button topics, but the first meeting is certainly, it's not the time and place to do it. Another important tip is don't forget the questions. Don't attempt to carry the weight of the conversation. Take the pressure off of yourself by asking meaningful and engaging questions. Try to use open-ended questions rather than a closed question style. Now, what I mean by this is try to avoid asking questions which can be answered with a simple yes or no. If you ask questions that require an expansive answer, so this enables you to gather more information about the other person, which will help you generate your next statement or question to them. For example, rather than asking, "Did you like the movie?" you might ask, "What was your favorite part of the movie and why was that?" Another important point is let them speak. The majority of people love talking about themselves, so let them. Invite them to share their stories to offer their opinions, to discuss their passions. You will come off as an incredible listener, and they'll walk away feeling heard and valued. However, that's just the basics of a fruitful conversation. How can you tease a great conversation out of someone you've only just met? One way of doing this is get that first question out. Don't obsess about the perfect first question, because sorry to say, there is no ideal question. This is often where people become stuck and paralyzed, getting things started. So take a leap forward, ask a question and get the conversation started. Think of the first question when meeting someone. It's as the front door of a home. We're using the front door as an analogy, of course. You simply have to knock on the door. Once they invite you in, you can explore the rest of the rooms with additional questions. It's the same in a conversation with someone new. Pick the first question, and you will then use this information they respond with to lead you into asking other questions or a statement and so on. There can't be a set formula to how you approach everyone new. You can't plan all your questions ahead of time because the first question is merely the start of it. The questions you ask from there will be based on each response you receive. So don't get caught up in planning too much. Try to relax. Take some deep breaths and let the conversation unfold as it does. Another important point is get creative. Be creative with the questions you ask. Don't ask the same old questions that everyone has heard 1,000 times before. Some questions you could ask are, if you could have absolutely any appetizer, main meal, drink, and dessert, what would you choose? Now this is going to provide you with an exciting topic, and if you open it up to meals from anywhere, places they've been, you will likely learn a lot about them. Just simply by asking them a straightforward question. Another good question is, what was the highlight of your trip away? Or what was the highlight of your weekend? You're actually taking an interest in what it is that they're doing, what it is that they're interested in, what are their passions. Another important point is get emotional. Now some of your questions should be embedded in the emotional. You don't want memorized responses that amount to a date exchange. You're looking to get to know this new person. A simple question of why can be useful if someone states, I like thriller movies. Follow this up with, why do you like the genre of this movie best? If someone lets you know they have had a hard time lately, this is your cue to ask more about this and give the person an opportunity to expand, such as, I'm sorry to hear that you had a hard time lately. Do you want to talk about it? Or do you think the situation will improve in time? You're showing empathy towards the other person, letting them know you've heard them on an emotional level. And this often creates a stronger bond. Now these are just a few of the ideas to help you on your way to striking up a conversation with someone new. Seriously, give them a go. Experiment. Put them into practice. Thanks very much for watching, and if you can, subscribe below, make any comments, suggestions, any topics that you think you might want to hear. Really look forward to hearing from you and also getting to know you. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.